The movie begins with Lucy's boyfriend Richard trying to make Lucy deliver a package to Mr. Jang in a hotel room. He doesn't tell her what is in it and asks that she trusts him. When she persists and keeps asking what was in the case and why he wouldn't deliver it himself, he tells her that the suitcase contains paperwork but is locked with a pin that only Mr. Jang knows. To further convince her, he says he'll be paid $11,000 for this job, and they can split it into two if she helps him deliver it. He also mentions that he has done this lots of times. Lucy refuses to deliver it, telling him she has to get home to prepare for her exam. But Richard handcuffs her with the suitcase and begs her to deliver it. He gives her $500 up front for the job risk. She curses at him and goes to the reception to deliver the package, as she is already handcuffed to the briefcase. In the reception, she asks to see Mr. Jang, while Richard is hanging by the glass door. She tells the receptionist her name is Richard because Richard is the person he knows and was supposed to deliver. The receptionist tells her to stand where she is as per Mr. Jang's instructions. Some men dressed in black suits walk towards Lucy, shoot Richard from the door, bribe the receptionist with some money and take Lucy away. The bodyguards drag Lucy to Mr. Jang's room. In the room, Lucy meets Mr. Jang while he is killing some people and she throws. Mr. Jang comes out with his hands covered in blood, speaking to his men in Korea, something Lucy does not understand. She tries to explain that she was only sent to deliver the box and leave, and they do not have to kill her. Lucy begs for anyone who understands English so she can explain herself. Mr. Jang then calls someone on the phone who speaks English and Korean to translate for him. Mr. Jang asks the interpreter to tell her to tell him what's in the case. Lucy explains that she doesn't know what's in the suitcase as she was dragged into the deal. Then Mr. Jang writes a number on paper and hide behind the door. The interpreter tells Lucy to open the suitcase with the code written on the paper. Mr. Jang says he is hiding because he does not trust Richard. Lucy also does not trust him because they have only been dating for a week. This increases her fear. Lucy is scared, but she is threatened, so she opens it. When she does open it, she finds 4 transparent pouches with blue contents. Then she tells the man behind the phone, who then tells Mr. Jang what the contents are before he leaves his hiding place to get the briefcase from Lucy. To test the effectiveness of the content, they bring in a man and make him sniff the blue content. The man acts like he lost breath, then he starts laughing nonstop, pouring saliva from his mouth. Mr. Jang shoots him in the head. Mr. Jang then offers Lucy a job. She cries that she doesn't need any job, but his men hit her, making her unconscious. In the next scene, in a lecture hall, a professor teaches that most humans use an average of 10% of their cerebral capacity. Even with all the technology we've invented, he mentions that the one living thing which uses the highest cerebral capacity is the dolphin, which uses about 20% cerebral capacity, enabling them to have an echolocation system more efficient than any person. Lucy wakes up in a new room she doesn't know and bandages stained with her blood on her stomach. Coming out of the room to see Mr. Jang and his gang and a man who apparently is the doctor. She is told that a pouch of the blue content, which is a drug called CPH4, has been placed into her lower belly, and she shouldn't be scared because they did nothing to her organs. After this, they bring others with the drugs in them and give them passports and flight tickets to deliver the drug to Europe, threatening to go after their family if they do otherwise. They cover their faces and send them out, as this is their business model. After a while, in another location, Lucy became conscious. She talked herself into playing cool until she landed from the plane. Then she was unmasked by 2 men speaking Mandarin. One of the men was touching her inappropriately, trying to have sex with her. She hit him off and he hit her back, kicking her continuously in her stomach until the other man stopped him and they left the room. The kicks and punches were so hard that the pouch in Lucy's stomach broke and the drug slipped into her body. She started jerking aggressively as the drug burst through her body. In another scene in the class presentation, the professor taught that if a human can attain 20% of their brain capacity by any chance, it'll give access and control of our own body. The human body consists of 100 billion neurons, which can only be accessed by 15% of the brain capacity. Also, the body consists of a gigantic network of information which we cannot access except we attain a certain percent of our brain capacity. At 40% of the brain capacity, a person can control others and then control matter. A student asked what could happen if one attained 100% brain capacity, but the professor could not answer that. Lucy, on the other hand, became conscious and sat quietly on a chair. A man came inside her prison. She seduced him, and when he came closer, she knocked him out and freed herself. This is the effect of the drug working. She went out of the prison she was locked and killed everyone else and ate all their food with her hands. She took out a bullet she was shot with in her arm all by herself, and afterward she packed all the guns they had and went outside. She saw 2 cabmen and asked if they spoke English. She shot the first one, who responded no, and threatened the other cab driver with a gun to take her to a hospital. On their way, she noticed she could hear conversations of people making calls from far away, and she could hear them speak clearly. When they got to the hospital, she told the driver to wait for her, and she went inside. She noticed she could read foreign signs and languages. She went to the surgery room. Even while brain surgery was going on, they told her to leave, but she said she needed them to work on her and it's urgent. She went through the patient's brain case on a screen and then killed the patient, saying that he would not survive, because a tumor had already invaded the cortex on the right side of his spine. Then she told the surgeon to take out the drug someone put in her, because it is leaking. She refused anesthesia before the treatment and told the doctor to work on her regardless. She called her mom during the surgery. Even as the doctor was working deep in her, she told her that she could feel everything around her, even the rotation of the earth, vibrations, gravity, heat leaving her body, blood in her veins, and even her brains. She said she could remember all that happened from the day she was born, even the moments of birth. Her mom could not possibly understand anything Lucy was saying. But Lucy went on and on, telling her everything that she could remember since her childhood, even breastfeeding. Then Lucy thanked her for all her love and hung up. The drug was out and there was only 500 G left. She asked the doctor how much was left in her body to be eliminated, but he could only tell her this if he knows what drug it is. She then tells him that it was CPH4. The doctor told her that pregnant women produce CPH4 during the 6th week of pregnancy in tiny quantities, which helps the baby form all the bones in the body. He says the action is like an atomic bomb. He told her that she should be dead with the amount that had leaked into her, and she replied not for long. She leaves the hospital, and outside Lucy can now see the roots of trees beneath the floor and how it connects to all the parts of the tree. Lucy went to meet Mr. Jiang. She killed all his men and went straight to his room, where he was enjoying the calmness and taking care of his skin. She pinned his hands to a chair with 2 knives. She told him how she felt after the drug affected her. She asked him where the others were headed, and when he didn't respond, she placed her hands on his head, accessing all his memories. She got the information she needed and found out that the others were headed to Berlin, Paris, and Rome, respectively, from the flight tickets given to them. Lucy went to her friend's place. She borrowed her laptop, and while her friend told her about her day, she already knew all that her friend was going to say. She did research on what was happening with her. Then she found Professor Nelson's research. She called him immediately, telling him she read all about 6,000 pages of his research and told him what was happening to her. He didn't believe her and thought it was a joke from his daughter's friend. She tried to convince him she read all 6,734 pages of all his research and knows them by heart. She then controlled his TV screen and continued on a video call with him. When he asked how she did it, she said she could control the most basic things like the television, laptop, and phone, appearing on them all, and even radios and light. She then mentioned that she doesn't feel pain, fear, or any kind of human feelings, and told him she doesn't know what to do with all of the knowledge buzzing through her brain because she feels like her time of death is close. So the professor advised her to pass on the knowledge that she has now to everyone. She tells him she'll be with him in 12 hours. Lucy gave a printed prescription to her friend and told her that her kidneys and liver are failing her and that she needs to make some lifestyle changes. Then she left outside. Lucy was declared wanted, so she changed her hair and camouflaged. She called the military, talking to the officer like she was in the room with him. She gave him the details of the other drug trafficking men with the CPH4 drugs and told him to carefully take notes. She told him the kind of drugs, how they carried it in their body, and told him to be careful when removing the drugs as they are very powerful products. She also mentioned that she would be needing to get the drugs from him later. She sent the information to the detective's computer, and so as each of the drug traffickers was arriving at the airport, the military was there to welcome and immediately take them in. The last drug trafficker ran off from the police at the airport, but was caught eventually. Lucy's brain has now reached 40% capacity. Lucy was on the plane after taking a sip of champagne. She could not feel her hand and it seemed like her body was evaporating, so she ran to the restroom. In the restroom, it felt like her body was being destroyed bit by bit and she did not know what to do. So she took more of the CPH-4 to see if this would help her during this process. The flight attendants tried to get her out of the restroom, but to no avail. Lucy woke up in a hospital in Paris. A nurse came into her room and, surprised that she is up and alive, ran to tell the doctor and the officer Del Rio, who was in the hospital. Lucy dressed and was prepared to walk out when she was stopped by Del Rio and his men. Del Rio told her to stop, but she said she wanted to speak with him alone. He told her to raise her hands and follow them. But when all the armed officers moved toward her, she put them all to sleep, controlling them with just 2 fingers. Without touching him, she took out Rio's bullet and asked to talk to him. She asked him if he got the packets. He said yes and told her where they were, but she said they will be safer with her. Lucy was at 50% of her brain capacity when she got into Rio's car. She saw phone signals shooting up. Then she zoomed in on the signal to find where Mr. Jang is with this signal. She tells Del Rio to let her drive, but he refuses because it is a police car. However, she uses her power to move him to the other seat without touching him. She began driving the car to the location. She rode against road rules, crashing all the cars in her way because they were already late. When Rio asked her, she said she has never driven before but has to get to the destination fast. As they are late, Mr. Jang's men went to the hospital, shot the officers and people who tried to stop them, and started taking out the drugs from the men who they sent trafficking. After each removal, they shoot the men. Some police cars were following them, but she made them crash. Lucy defeated all the militaries and obstacles in her way and got to the hospital. She asked the man with the case to give her, but he refused and told his men to attack. Lucy had now attained 60% of her brain capacity. Then she took down all the men by just walking and swinging her hands. She took the already harvested drugs from them and harvested the last one herself. When Rio said she should go alone because she does not need him, she kissed him and told him to follow her as a reminder. She set the map to the professor's location, and just then Mr. Jang came, but he missed her and the drug. She called the professor, and then she and Rio went to meet the professor. The professor had called other professors at the top in the field to help understand her case. When he tried to introduce them, she said she knows them all as she has every information in her brain to show them her ability. She touched one of the men and told him about something that happened to his daughter in the past. She explains some of the knowledge she had, saying that time is the ultimate measure of life and everything that exists. While Lucy was explaining some of the information she has garnered and some key principles of life science and time, Mr. Jang gathered the remaining 25 of his men and went into the university to get Lucy. Lucy told Rio to guard the door while she continued with the professors. Mr. Jang killed all the guards outside that tried to stop him. His men entered every room they could find in the process of finding Lucy and killed everyone. Lucy told the professors to inject the remaining drugs into her system so she can speed up the usage of her brain to 100%. Then she'll download all the knowledge she had into a computer and give it to him before she dies. The professor was skeptical as it was too much drugs. He also said the information may be too much for mankind. Mr. Jang's men kept killing forward all officers and everyone they could find on their way to finding Lucy and the drugs. As they get closer, Rio and some more officers are also waiting for them to show up to stop them. All the drugs were in Lucy's body. Then black fluid-like substances began to extend from her body, reaching for matter, and all the computers in the room became white and void without anything. Then the black fluid substance began to build a new aged computer. It was said to be a new age computer by the professor. Mr. Jang's men and the police officers were continuously firing bullets at each other brutally outside the walls of the room. As Mr. Jang tries to get in and the officers tried to stop him and his team, one of Mr. Jang's men shoots explosives and Lucy's body in a chair was moved back in time, apparently to protect her from the impact. She was moved centuries back in time to when there was no technology, before anything on Earth even existed. Until she found a monkey species like that, touched it, and then moved back to reality where she initially was passing information to a computer. She has now reached 99% capacity of her brain when Mr. Jang came in and pointed a gun to her head. As he approached her, she reached 100% capacity. He tried shooting her, but her body vanished, leaving just her clothes. Jang caused trouble and wanted to shoot the professors. Then Rio came in and shot him, saving the professors. The big structured New Age computer building, while she was trying to pass on information, then stretched out a flash drive to Professor Nelson, and after he collected, the black structure collapsed and disappeared. The flash drive contains all the information that built up as a result of the 100% capacity knowledge. Then she passed a message through Rio's phone that she is now everywhere. The end.